大家好，我是秦苏珊律师。那现在的话呢，我跟我们的洪法官还有我们的 Craig 律师，我们今天讨论一下，就是如果你在很小的时候你就进入美国了，比方说你是2、3岁的时候就进入美国了，那之后你在美国成长，你在美国受的教育，其实你就是一个美国人。可是呢，你忽略了你当时的身份，比方说你当时父母是有绿卡的或者公民的，可是你一直自己没有去申请这个身份，你只有绿卡的身份。可是后来由于刑事犯罪导致你丢失了这个绿卡的身份，有递解令。但是呢，你在美国又生活了，比方说20年、30年，那这种情况，现在川普抓人这么厉害，你是否会被抓？是否会被递解出去？你该怎么办 ？OK， 那现在就是说，如果你跟美国公民结婚了，你有美国的子女21岁了，或者是说你的父母也是美国公民了，那就是说他们就是帮你办这个家属绿卡，能不能帮你把20年、30年的这种递解令打开？就是说，有的人担心我递解令都已经20年了、30年，能不能打开 ？Hey Craig and hey Judge Hum.
Hi.
So we have a lot of clients now called us. They haven't called us in a long time now because ICE is arresting everybody. So every time when I talk to someone who speaks, good English, basically they came here as a child, let's say when they were 2 or 3, they speak like an American, they act like American, they were educated here. But because they have criminal conviction, they lost their green card status. But now they're in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 30s. They have committed so much to this country, but now ICE wants to arrest them and deport them possibly to a third country. So people are scared. So what do we do at this point? So Judge Hum, I'll start with you. Let's say, I'll give you a scenario. So we have this particular person came to this country from Hong Kong when he was 2. He came with his parents. Now he's in his 40s. So he came as a baby. So his parents both naturalized when he was under the age of 18, but he neglected to apply for any, citizenship or anything. So later on, he committed a crime because he joined a gang. So he was convicted with aggravated felony. So now he has a deportation order, and his dad since then passed away. So he wanted to know, how can we help him?
Okay, yeah, complicated but typical cases of this nature. There are 2 ways in terms of naturalization, and in terms of a motion to reopen, to set aside the conviction so they can remain here in the United States. They need to show there was an error in fact or an error in law pertaining to their previous deportation proceeding. The other factor is, that I mentioned to begin with, if they can demonstrate that they have either acquired or derived U.S. citizenship through their parents, then if you are a U.S. citizen, you can't be deported from the United States. So, as I say, complicated, but somewhat typical in terms of many cases that you meant, the scenario that you mentioned. There are many cases of that nature, and certainly our firm could assist these people in terms of trying to defeat the their removal from the United States based upon their either gang affiliation or gang membership. So I would suggest those people to consult with the immigration attorney or consult with our firm.
Craig, I know you were a criminal defense attorney. So what Judge Hum just mentioned about, if someone were convicted many years ago, so what we can do to help them, one of the options is to set aside the criminal conviction. So procedurally, let's say if someone was convicted of an aggravated felony or felony 20 years later, is there a statute of limitation? How can they, what did they do? What's the procedure to set aside the criminal conviction?
Well, first off, this is all political, where, the Trump administration wants to be able to say they're deporting criminals. So they're going back and looking at everyone's record to see if they have any contact with law enforcement. And they're also looking to, arrest and deport individuals who were arrested but had no criminal convictions. So, it's, yes, you could go, to go to the court to, do motions to seal or, but it's really just the arrest itself that puts you on their radar. And then obviously any conviction, any felony conviction, any crime of moral turpitude will have negative immigration consequences. So anyone who has any immigration issues, I would not advise them to take any offer that would have any negative immigration consequences. So for instance, if you have like a DUI, we could work out some kind of programming where you would, be convicted of a violation, which is not a crime and has no negative immigration consequences. But that's not going to prevent this administration from targeting individuals just to play into their narrative that they're targeting criminals. So I would advise every person here to be very, very careful and make sure that they're following the law, because any simple arrest would put you on their radar and you could potentially face deportation.
Right.
Just as a side note, on the conviction on an aggravated felony, it is extremely difficult to get any type of relief when you've been removed on the basis of an aggravated felony. But if you can demonstrate that, and this is pre-Supreme Court determination, if you can demonstrate that you failed to get adequate legal counsel concerning your guilty plea to that particular situation, you may be able to set aside that criminal conviction as a violation of constitutional protections. If it was after the Supreme Court in Pereira, then you can certainly move to set aside that conviction on the basis of a denial of Fourth Amendment right to counsel, competent counsel in that regard. And then once you set it aside, then there's no more ground of removability under that aggravated felony. But it's a very complex, very time-consuming, and very difficult case that requires a much further analysis in terms of the conviction, how it came about, and what was involved. So anybody in that type of situation should consult with a very competent immigration attorney, or come to our firm and get the information that they seek in terms of trying to set aside that type of conviction and remain here in the United States.
Let's say if they're not able to set aside due to ineffective assistance of a counsel, is there any other options for them to get this case reopened? Like, because if under the immigration law, because if someone is convicted of an aggravated felony, so they are barred from the adjustment of status, right? So let's say if we're unable to set aside, are there any other options though?
Well, if it's an aggravated felony, then it's a bar for the future, for life. But the important thing here is it's important to try and mitigate that by setting aside that conviction based upon constitutional infirmity. So in other words, you need to look a deep research into the conviction, how it came about, what were the circumstances, to find out if you can set aside that conviction. As indicated, an aggravated felony conviction will be a bar. Once you're deported on that basis, will be a bar for you to come back. There is a provision in the law that says if any conviction's over 15 years, you may be able to demonstrate rehabilitative factors to get permission to come back to the United States, a 212 application. But extremely difficult, extremely hard, and it requires intensive documentation to establish that.
Okay. All right. Well, at least there's at least some kind of hope, because we do have a lot of clients that came to us, they're worried. They've been dormant for many years. They didn't have to worry because they basically built their home here, for 40 years, 50 years. And now everything came to surface because they're worried about, getting deported or getting separated from their elderly parents, their spouse, their children. Because if somebody came at 2 and now they're in their 40s or 50s, their children are in college, their parents are old, their spouse has been with them for many years. So if they do get arrested, get deported, basically the whole family is going to be shattered. So it's good to know that we can help them if they do get arrested, or we can help them to look through their case, trying to figure out what we can help them with. 那刚才呢，我跟我们的洪法官还有就是Craig跟我们讨论了一下，就是说如果你有刑事犯罪并且是重罪，那这种情况下，我们能不能把你的递解令打开？那刚才呢，就是洪法官跟Craig都讲了，就是我们能做的就是把你当年的这个刑事案件重新去 set aside， 也就是打开。但是这个挑战性非常非常的大，因为我们要去看你当时整个被指控以及打官司的这个刑事案件的这个过程，你当年的刑事律师 师他有没有帮你很好的去做这个辩护，或者你当时认罪是在怎么样的一个情形下认罪的。那当然要走这条路，把你10年、20年、30年以前的这个刑事案子重新打开，这个挑战性很大。那如果你不打开的话呢，你面临的条件就是你要调整绿卡是非常困难的，因为移民法它有规定，如果说你曾经被定的是重罪的话呢，你是不能拿美国绿卡，除非比较特殊的情况。那当然了，所以说具体的情况呢，我们要根据你的案件当年的案件，以及现在比方说你在美国住了多少年，有没有报税，然后接下来有没有任何犯罪记录，有哪些美国的亲属等等去决定你这个案子我们能不能帮你把这个递解令给取消。那感谢大家的收看，如果你这边有任何问题的话呢，可以找我们的律师团队做一个详细的咨询，非常感谢。